On Thursday, April 18, 2013, while everyone was distracted by the Boston bombing case, the Cyber Intelligence Sharing and Protection Act, aka CISPA, passed the House with 288 votes for and 127 votes against it. Typical sneaky politician tactic. They hoped you wouldn't notice. So what is CISPA and why should you care? How is it dangerous? First thing we should do is clear up one misconception. CISPA is not a framework designed to allow the government to easily take down websites like SOPA was. In fact, it doesn't deal with censorship at all. Instead, it focuses on the sharing of information between the U.S. government and private companies. Now, there are two components to this information sharing. The first part isn't very controversial. It makes it easier for the government to share information related to cyber threats with IT companies. But it's the second component of this law that's troublesome, because it creates provisions to allow private companies such as Google, Facebook, or your internet provider to send your personal information to the U.S. government at any time without a warrant. Companies sharing this information could do so without ever notifying you, and they would be completely shielded from any legal recourse. Information shared in this way would be exempt from the Freedom of Information Act, meaning you would have no way of finding out whether your data had been given to the government at all. Now, while this is supposedly intended to help protect networks from attacks from China, it should be clear that what the U.S. government really wants is to use private companies to gather even more information about people like you. Now, of course, there's a typical defense that people put up, which is that if you aren't doing anything wrong, you have nothing to hide. But this ignores the fact that many of these IT companies are not politically neutral. We've seen this even in the past few weeks as Facebook has blocked numerous sites which were discussing the Boston bombing cover-up. Consider the danger of having a company employee that sees some controversial content that you've posted on Facebook or elsewhere be given the power to simply flag you and have your data sent to the authorities. In the context of the ever more blatant government corruption and criminality, this is extremely dangerous, and it should be viewed as a direct threat to whistleblowers and the alternative media. That this information gathering would be politically driven isn't just speculation. On February 5th of 2013, the White House announced plans to establish a new interagency working group to counter online radicalization. The working group will be headed by the White House National Security Staff. Quentin Wiktorowicz, the Senior Director for Community Partnerships in the National Security Staff, made the following statement. Violent extremist groups like Al-Qaeda, its affiliates and adherents, violent supremacist groups, and violent sovereign citizens are leveraging online tools and resources to propagate messages of violence and division. Now, obviously, they're using these derogatory terms to obscure the fact that they're going to be targeting political activists. Notice that they say messages of violence and division. Division being the operative term here, because you can accuse anyone who's speaking out against the government as propagating messages of division. In spite of the obvious privacy issues in this bill, CISPA's House sponsor, Republican Mike Rogers, recently indicated that anyone who shared these concerns is simply childish, and he compared detractors to a 14-year-old tweeter in the basement. He then acted shocked when the internet responded by posting his address and other personal information online. What did you expect, Mikey? You just passed a law to give away our information. Listen, there's no point trying to petition these politicians nicely. Begging at their feet is weak and unproductive. What those who voted for this law need to hear is that their vote is going to be remembered, along with their names, photos, and home addresses. They need to understand that their actions are treason, and not just figuratively. It's a violation of the Fourth Amendment. These politicians think that they can operate with impunity? Well, then make them understand that you will be holding them personally responsible, and that they had better do everything in their power to make sure their buddies in the Senate don't let this pass. These people don't deserve your respect. They don't deserve polite and gentle words. For this and for all the corrupt legislation they've passed over the past several years, they deserve a prison sentence. If you'd like more content like this, please subscribe to this channel, Storm Clouds Gathering, on YouTube. For updates and bonus content, follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/StormCloudsGathering, on Twitter at Collapse Updates, and our website, stormcloudsgathering.com.